Hello, I'm Dr. Mark Hutchinson from the University of Illinois at Chicago. I'm very proud to be participating in this FAST program to educate you and residents and attendings all about some basic and fundamental skills in arthroscopy. Today I'm going to introduce you to the third module in the series. We're going to talk about basic instruments and the use of basic instruments. So, introducing you to Module 3, you're going to need a few different parts to participate in learning about these basic instrument tools and how to use your hands to make them work. We're going to use this sawbones model, and there are various components to it. First, we'll have this horizontal platform. We'll have a more vertical-oriented platform. We'll also have a platform designed for meniscus resection, and another platform that actually already has a meniscus tear created, and we'll work on meniscus removal and meniscectomies. Other tools that we're going to particularly need for this process is some type of a grasper. And if we can zoom in, certainly there are a variety of types of graspers available, and here you can see a more of a straight beaked one. I will say for this purposes, you're going to want one with a little bit more of a curved tip, and it'll work a little bit better for you. For the meniscectomy portion, we'll also want some type of a biter. And then ultimately, you're going to want we'll also be using an arthroscopic visualization. You can use a routine arthroscope, or you can use a computer-assisted arthroscopic device. As we use a variety of these, the bases of the modules, you'll actually notice there's ability to change the angle that we may want to work with. I have this one oriented directly at 0 degrees. We're looking a little bit from an oblique view, and as we use our tools, the bottom line is every time you use a tool, you want to actually look at its function before you put it into a joint or before you use it. So for this tool, we want to figure out how to open and close, and this one actually has a device that will actually lock. So for our purposes, we're going to actually keep it out of the way. Next, as we use any type of a device, you want to have good control side to side within the space, but also proximal and distal within the space. So an example here is if we want to go reach for this piece, I'm actually going to go reach across, grab, remove, and place it into the bin. So that's going to be our goal actually for this portion of the module, and that is just simple use of a tool with open visualization. We can go overhead. So again, now first I'm just going to play with it one-handed, and what you'll find is your hand moves in space a little bit. So if you actually stabilize your hand, almost like you're using an arthroscopic portal, I'll be able to reach in, open, grab, remove the piece. After you get facile with one hand, you want to shift hands, be able to do this with both hands. So now I'm going to reach across, open, grab, remove a piece. Another variation that we can do, and actually it makes it a little bit more difficult, is actually now on each stage, once we have actually removed the piece and we've gotten comfortable with the removal, you can actually now try to manipulate the pieces within the joint and putting them back on the pegs. Same thing, you want to grab the piece, place it directly over the peg. Now that one was easy, but the hard one is actually going to be one that's already laying down. If it's already laying down, we may have to go in, reach for our piece, orient it up and down, and in the joint this is going to be like moving a loose body into a safe part of the joint, grabbing our piece, and then putting it back on the peg. The next stage of our module is going to actually be doing the same type of a direct use of your tool. We're going to reach in and grab, but now instead of a horizontal orientation, we're actually going to have to use our hands vertically. Again, we're going to use it first in this open space, just using our hands to accomplish it. Use our right hand and then our left hand. And then we're going to get more complex going inside of a rigid shell. So once again, we're going to say, I'm going to reach for the top one in the middle. I'm going to grab my piece, retract it, put it in the plug. Here I'm going to reach in, grab my piece, remove it, put it in. I may switch sides, use my left hand, and I can reach over across to grab some from this post or from this post. Make this more complex, you'll actually grab the pieces, place it back, and see if you can put them back on the pins all of the different orientations. So if I'm going to grab deep inside, I'm going to grab my pin, and I want to place it way back over here. Again, I'm going to have to reorient my hand and my grasp of the device to put it back in place. I'm learning very good hand-eye coordination and manipulating these small pieces within the joint, or at least practicing to do so. Now we're going to add some complexity to your challenge, and we're going to add a new part of the module. We're actually going to put a clear shell over the top of our workstation so that you no longer have direct access with your device. You're going to have to actually work through a portal. So we're just going to clip our clear shell into place, and we're going to use the anterior 3 portals, which are going to mimic a knee arthroscopic portal, but you can actually practice through any of the portals to learn the direct access. The entire goal is to be able to reach through the portal. We're going to want to identify our loose fragment, which is now here going to be set up on this horizontal platform. We want to be able to reach in, open our device, reach past, carefully grab, and then remove it. And basically we're mimicking the same game that we played before, but basically removing loose pieces. So again, as we do all things, we want to be ambidextrous, so we're going to actually change our hand. We're going to actually switch to our left hand and practice the same skill with our left hand. And once again, to make things more challenging, you can do a couple of different things. One is we can actually start putting our pieces back onto the pins, and you can actually change the orientation of this platform. The Sawbones module here actually has the ability to change the rotation just on the side. So if you want to change to make yourself a little bit more challenging, you can actually reorient it. I started in a 0-degree position, but you're welcome to move things around to become more challenging. Another question is going to be how do you know you're really good at this? And one of those, the metrics or the measurements of that is simply how if you can reach and grab these without dropping the pieces, carefully put them in there, but also another maybe time. So you can actually challenge yourself, and your program can challenge you to say you actually have to complete the task, remove all of the pieces in a given time frame, and if you can do that in a facile way and easy without drops, then you've succeeded in the task. Our next challenge, we've just done our horizontal module. Now we're going to actually use our stage, which is actually a more vertical stage. Once again, we're going to clip our clear shell over the top. So we actually have to convert our challenge now to basically an arthroscopic portal challenge. We haven't added in the arthroscope yet, but that'll be the final challenge. We're going to actually look through our clear top, and once again, using our front 3 portals, we're going to pretend it's a knee arthroscopy, reach through, we're going to reach across, identify one of our pieces, our green tabs, pull it out, place it in. As we're doing all things, we want to be good at both sides, so I'm going to change now with my left hand and start practicing removing pieces. The next challenge I'd like to show you is using a different stage of the Sawbones model, and that is we're going to actually practice meniscectomy and resecting techniques. So we're going to use a different tool for this, and this is going to be a biter. And so our biter device is just basically opens and closes. Anytime you use a biting device with arthroscopy, you actually want to make sure that it's actually working before you place it into the joint. So here you can see just open and close. It's going to work to biting. Introducing you to the model itself, we're going to use a couple of different base units for the model. One is this meniscus, and basically what we've created here is there's this template of a meniscus model, and what we've done in this case is we've put 3 of those stacked on top of each other here. It actually mimics the texture of resection a little bit better than a single piece of paper. You can actually then remove the screws, place the paper in place, screw it back into place, and that becomes our meniscus model. This actually serves very nicely as a metric because we're going to ultimately be able to resect our meniscus right back to, and actually our goal is between the 2 lines. And the next component of our module is the same basic device, but now we place a rubber piece in between. We can actually pre-create a meniscus tear that we can actually practice to resect. So those two things we're going to accomplish here. First, open, then with the clear shell, which allows us to practice our meniscectomy. And if I can remove all of it that way without and making a nice smooth edge, I've accomplished my task. Once we've done it through an open position, we want to, as always, change hands, practice our meniscus resection from the opposite direction. First is practicing using the device on the clean part of our paper. Reach in, grasp, take pieces. To add ourselves one level more challenge, we're going to add our clear shell. I'm going to reach in first with my right hand and continue my resection. Now we're just going to look from a different view using our meniscus repair with the shell in place. Once again, now we can take advantage of this Sawbones model so we can actually reorient ourselves, which will give us a practice to now reach using our knee arthroscopic portals, perhaps from a different angle or view. But then my entire goal now is to be able to bite between the lines in a nice smooth cut. And what I like to do is I set my depth of my device, proximal and distal. Once I've set my depth of my device, I'll make my bite, and then I just keep moving side to side. I see commonly as a mistake is people will bite, retract, bite, retract. If you keep doing that, you're more likely to damage the cartilage within a joint. So you're better off keeping your working tip in one space. Carefully, small movements, moving side to side. Next thing I'd like to show you is how to prepare the Sawbones model for the meniscus. Here you can see the base station for the Sawbones model for the meniscus. You're going to remove the screws, and then the top comes off, and you can see that it has little spikes on it. We're going to get our pre-made paper and basically cut our meniscus. We want to actually have 3 papers together. It provides the right thickness in terms of texture for resection. Here you can see our little template put in place. We'll put it right into the little meniscus area. Take our top, engage the pieces right back into place. Make sure the meniscus is in place. Put that into place, and then secure it back with the 3 screw sets to lock it into place. Now we put one on both sides. It gives us our access for our meniscus. Next, I would like to introduce you to another stage for the FAST module, and that is just another way to work with meniscectomies. Here we're going to use our same meniscal stage, but instead of the paper, we're going to actually use basically a rubber gasket placed in between to mimic our meniscus. The nice thing with this is you can actually create a meniscus tear in advance to do your resection. The next more challenging thing now is to add the challenge of the arthroscope. And so we're going to set up our Sawbones model first by placing this 1-inch extension. We're going to place our horizontal platform into place. And then once we have that in place, we're going to actually add our clear shell, which will then allow us to now use our arthroscope and our portals. Now the first stage of using the arthroscopic device is going to be helpful to use the clear shell so you still have your old orientation, just you can cheat looking outside, but you want to become more and more dependent on your arthroscopic visualization. So I'm going to put my scope in through one portal. Now if we can get looking inside, we're going to use our second portal for our grasping device. And now as we look inside, we're going to get oriented with our scope. And now I'm looking off to the right. You can look down. You can look sideways. You want to take advantage of that with inside here. Now we're going to place our grasping device within. and then identify a pin, reach in, remove, reach in, remove. And now with my scope currently in my right hand, I'll reach in with my left hand, use the grasping device, remove my pieces. Again, if I want to make it more challenging, I can actually start grabbing my pieces and then place them back in place. So now that we've looked inside, we've had ourselves oriented nicely. We're actually more dependent on the arthroscope rather than looking through the clear shell. We're going to remove our clear shell and make ourselves one step more challenging by placing the completely hard shell, which places us completely dependent on the arthroscope. Completely dependent on the arthroscope. I'm going to remove another pin. And now with my scope in my right hand, but my grasper in my left hand, I've switched hands. I'm going to repeat the task using my left hand to remove the pieces. Now I'd like to take an opportunity to show you from a different perspective the optimal use of this model using this picture-in-a-picture so you can see actually how the external hands are going to work. So I'm going to actually remove the clear shell. So we're completely dependent on the arthroscope. I'm going to place the hard shell into place. I'm going to actually now place my scope into this inner portal, and now we can see our inside-out view. Now, just basically what we've already learned from our arthroscopic skill building is first I need to be able to get oriented with my camera. I'm going to take advantage of the rotation of the camera to be able to look down, to look forward, to look back. I can sweep. So very, very important to get back to our basic fundamental hand skills. Once I have my orientation, I'm going to use my right hand. I'm going to place it. Now again, when I'm using my, my device here, if I keep my hand straight up and down, that biter won't be able to grab anything. So I need to be able to comfortably turn my hand, open, rotate, and it may even depend on which peg I'm going for in terms of the angle that I'm going to grab, retract at. So here I'm going to comfortably go up and down. Perhaps now I'm going to go through the other set where I can reach across, open, grab, up and down. Now my scope's in my right hand. I'm going to reorient myself using both translation of the scope, movement of the scope, rotation of the scope. And now you can see my grasper is going to come into place. And a couple of tricks, as we know, if you feel like that you're lost in space, what you can do is you can slide off the tip of your scope. You can go to some known position. And so here I'm orienting. I'm going to reach in, grab, carefully remove. Next, I'd like to take advantage of showing you on the Sawbones model a different stage, and this is now we're back to our vertical stage, and we're going to practice arthroscopic skills rather than direct access skills. Our opaque shell. Now my scope is going to go back inside, and we can see our separate posts. And now from looking through I can reach in with my grasper, remove pieces. I can also now reorient my posts. Which is now going to give me a different perspective. So my right post is now more posterior. It's going to give me a little bit easier access to my left post. I'm going to practice with my the scope in my right hand and the grasper in my left. I'm going to get myself oriented. Here's my grasper. Okay, that's not impressive. Place it in the basin. You can practice this both for location, for speed, for organization. You can practice both your right and your left hand to get more facile with inside the the model, but also practicing to be facile inside an actual knee. The next phase of our module practice is actually now to take one step up regarding our meniscectomy and actually do it with arthroscopic assistance. We can actually practice with the shell as a transition, but certainly the more challenging is to actually do it completely with our opaque shell. So we put that into place. We're going to place our scope into place. This is going to allow me now, I'm going to play with my scope to get myself oriented within our joint. I have taken a chance to actually orient this rotating platform so that my meniscus is oriented. Reach in with my scope in my left hand, my biting device in my right hand, and the entire goal again is to actually resect between the lines. So here is an easy bite between the lines. I'm going to have a large volume, more posterior, but my ultimate requirement is going to be to actually make sure that I've provided my resection between the lines. And that's going to be my metric to say that I did an adequate job. You can see here I still have a little bit of remnant of black line there, so I need to go a little bit deeper in terms of that bite. In terms of, once again, practicing our ability to be ambidextrous, I've removed about half of the meniscus there. I'm now going to actually remove. I'm going to take my scope. I'm going to look through the separate portal. I'm going to get myself oriented within the joint. Now I'm going to use my basket in my opposite hand. Our resection, if that's not necessarily the best angle to get at everything, we can change our scope back once again, get myself reoriented. Now you can see as I'm looking along that meniscus, I've resected all of it. I'm pretty much between the lines. My mentor is going to be able to take this apart, look and see how I did in terms of my complete meniscectomy. The final testing for your meniscus technique is to now actually use a rubberized meniscus gasket as our meniscus. We're going to place our opaque shell back in place. We're going to put our scope in. I'm going to get myself oriented within the space. And so there you can see in the anterior edge, there's my meniscus tear. Here's my basket coming in from the side. Once again, I can actually either go working from the tip, trying to actually resect the meniscus. As you can see, this is actually true, very much like a normal meniscus. It tends to kind of run away from you. And so what I find is easier is actually figure out, almost laying on my line like we did with our line, knowing that this is where I'm going to have to scallop, and I'm going to actually come and resect my meniscus from this very stable component, and I'm going to work from the right to the left, all the way to the base of that tear, and now you can see I have a nice smooth resection, and I can smooth off the rest of that either with a shaver or with a little bit of use of the basket.